Hello and welcome back to my channel, Tarot with AnneMarie. I'm going to jump in, and as you can see above my head, if you do want to find out about the courses on my website, it's tarotwithannemarie.com. So I'm Tarot with AnneMarie, everybody, and I believe that there is a strategic element to tarot that's often overlooked, and that's why I've got a system that focuses on working with cards one week to teach you that card and card pairings. And I also do a very special spread that kind of gives deeper meanings and a bigger reading. So if you've already got a strategy for your tarot in practice, you know what? Just add every little bit of nuance that you possibly can. Tonight, this is Learn One Card Tarot, and this series is all about approaching how to uncover what the meaning of each card is. So if you need any more, you know where to go. Check out the courses on my website, tarotwithannemarie.com. And Five of Swords. Five of Swords pictures 3 men, and 2 of them are walking away from the one who is left that's holding 3 of the 5 swords that we see in that picture. The clouds are grey, but that sky is blue, and that shows that this is a scene where the fight's not yet over. The storm's clearing, and we are shown the aftermath, showing that events were not successful. Now, ego has won the day here, ultimately bringing failure. More trouble is yet to come. And in the background, the mountains show problems on the horizon. And everyone in this card is facing their directions and their decisions. But if we look, the mountains are showing that everyone's having a quick look at what's there. The mountains show that there's problems there, and they're all aware of that tension and that situation. And it's going to cause the future to change based now on the present, even if not one of them doesn't seem to care. The sea is rippling, and there's no waves, just undercurrents. And that's pushing the deep ocean emotions about, showing the discontent that is present. So there are 3 men that are all taking different roles in their arguments about their situation that they're finding themselves in right now. And they've battled with verbal and mental sparring, and they're now feeling the results. So 5 of Swords in this image is showing a couple of people who's already started to walk away from this scene. They've either abandoned their swords, or they've taken them, or it's been taken from them by this victor, and the opinions are being still flagged out. They have accepted defeat though, so they're refusing to play, or unable to play, or compete with this other character. And so the men in the background who are lying on the ground there, they've got their swords lying on the ground, and they're trying to conquer what's there in front of them. But the man that's furthest away is standing with his head in his hands, showing signs of this funny old card that we're doing. It's a complicated card. So the man farthest away is standing there with his head in his hands. And that sort of signals a sign of despair, doesn't it? In the original card of the Rider-Waites, he's dressed completely in yellow, and here we've got one of those almost originals. This is the big Rider-Waite deck. Yellow is an intellectual colour, so his view may have been single-minded and unbendable. Now, the universal Rider-Waite deck can also show this man in a brown tunic, with the darker side in darker brown and wearing yellow boots, so it depends on which deck you're using. But here we're being told that this situation is down to earth because of the shades of brown that's going on in this card, and one's suggesting shadow, and it's showing that things have not been clear in the approach, and a person who may have had the ability to mentally spar with an opponent feels very lost on a personal level. So his sword is representing his honest or opinionated view, and they may have all been in negotiation many times. The other man that's standing with his back, that's pondering his next move. So this is a guy that's looking at his predicament, and he may be even considered to be turning round to stand on his ground in some way. If you look closely, he's got green, yellow and orange clothes. You've got to look really closely to see that, but that's exactly what that is. Sort of greenish sort of sleeves there, the left arm. We can see one green sleeve on the left arm. So his part in this argument was, like the other man, quite down to earth. That's symbolic of being down to earth. And green sometimes is gentle and caring, and yet practical. It's earthy. On his right shoulder, the character that I said with the green sleeve there, he's got an orange cloak, and that shows he would have been enthusiastic. Orange is a colour of enthusiasm. So he may have been enthusiastic about what he felt, yet he may not have been as confident as he needed to be with it just draped over one shoulder. His hair is dark, which shows maturity and an experienced person. Sometimes we see it as blonde, and that can mean that it's a little less mature, but a very sincere energy. And his clothes differ, with that brown sort of cloak with orange tights and a belt and grey boots. So it depends which deck you're actually looking at. Yet he still shows himself to be down to earth, that's those colours, and open with his views and his opinions. And they don't seek to band together this lot, do they? They're not comforting each other, and it's fueled by ego and not in a position to support each other, perhaps out of their own shock. So the man in the foreground has passion with his brown boots, orange in some versions. Look at his red tights and his red shirt. He's someone who will talk with drive and enthusiasm for what he wants, and each step he takes out of determination, firmly grounded in his beliefs. However, there's a green tunic again over the top of his red garments, and that shows he seeks merit in his aims. He feels his potential. He wants to grow, and all that red will make him take action out of desire rather than the consideration. So he's much more driven and determined and able to shout louder than the others, and much more dominant and a brash personality. Now the wind's blowing his red hair out of his face, so the others can actually see his face, it's visible, and there may be a shock as the winds of change blow his hair harshly away and showing that expression. Right now it looks very smug. And he's the bringer of the storm that we can see in the actual background behind. And he owns the stage that the scene is set upon. I have discussed this in the past. There are a lot of cards in the Rider-Waite Smith deck or the Rider-Waite deck. There are so many different versions, depends which one you're looking at. That is a stage card, and his mind is full of fiery ambition for his own dominance. Now look at that card and let's just see. We can see the character there. We've got two swords on the floor. We've got two figures in the background. We've got the main figure standing there holding two swords over her shoulder and one down to the ground. Look at where the sea or the ocean is, and you'll see two lines, almost as if somebody's pulled down like a green screen to bring it down, how they do in the theatre, to set the stage. So we'll come back to that in a little while, but just want you to take notice. That's there, and that might come up in your reading one day. All this stuff, don't think, oh, I've got to say all of this. Of course not. It's what applies, or something here might make you actually feel, when this card comes up, that you'll have an awful lot of forewarned, forearmed, as it were. So in some versions of the stack, his hair is strawberry blonde, symbolising him as young and therefore quite immature. He's holding 3 of the swords, like I mentioned, and he holds on to that, like the pain and the loss of the 3 of swords that we met earlier. And yet, it's his pain, but I don't think he really sees it. He's acting it out. So holding 2 of the swords over his left shoulder, he shows that he feels his opinion is the right one or the correct one, and that they, the others, are wrong. So the sword that he's holding to the ground is in his right hand, and that's an emotional element. So right or wrong, he deeply feels his sense of conviction. He is smiling, feeling confident that he has won, whatever the battle was, and he's defending his opinion and his pride. Yet he's attempting to communicate with just the ego and bullying. So this is a complex card, and we're going to keep talking, and I want you to jump to no conclusions till we've just gone through it all, and then you can ask me anything you want. So his smile now is at the expense of the other's upset, showing that he's smug and self-righteous in his expression. His shoulder, if you look at it, is slightly raised in a shrug, as if to minimize their shock and disappointment, as if he's right, superior. He might even be feigning a bit of sympathy, but he's detached from his actions, believing the best man has won. He does not mind that he's hurt others to get what he wants, and that he's been right and victorious in all that matters to him. He's often referred to as being a poor sportsman. And like a spoilt child, he takes what he wants and he'll fight with others. I'm going to fight you, I want to beat you, and shout until others back down. However, the others have turned away from him, abandoning their swords, which represents their wisdom, their beliefs, their thoughts, and their expressions, and they're facing the ocean and the mountains in the background. So by turning their backs on him, they show they no longer wish to do things his way. But he has won. They're tired of fighting, and the only outcome that can be is one of failure or defeat. And the lone man that's holding the sword has the victory, but at what price? And his victory is very hollow. He's pushed the others away due to his presumption that he holds all the swords, and he's far better equipped to hold that position of authority, regardless of the expertise that the others may or may not possess. So this man, although he appears victorious, has lost the fight, and he's achieved his position by going against the view of the others and using force. This guy, his ego has ruled the situation, and he's intimidated the others into submission, yet he's not gained their respect, because the remaining 2 swords, if used, could create a temporary truce, but they've given up. Look, there's no reconciliation, they've walked away, because they realise there's no hope. Being on the floor, by the way, the 2 swords on the floor, represents uneasiness. There's no balance within the 2 of swords. The situation's at a loss. And if you get this card, don't panic. Hear me out. I don't want to keep coming in and saying the same thing 20 times, so just follow me for a while. So if you're the holder of the swords in this card, so if you're the one that's doing this, and I doubt that any of us do it deliberately, but we can be faced with having to defend ourselves because we don't know what's happened here. We might be going, oh, he's horrible, who wants to be around that? I'm not like that. Hold on a minute. What if you've been pushed to that? What if they're the bullies? We don't know. Remember I said to you, it's a stage card. But more importantly, it's swords. And swords is how we are processing our own thinking and our communication. So there is nothing physical in what I'm saying. This is all psychological. So don't think, oh, somebody's coming up here and they're fighting me with fisticuffs. It's swords, the suit of swords. The fight is verbal. The holder of the swords in this card are equally the one that could be defeated. You might actually have been left with no choice. Whichever role you're playing, no one can really win this game, because the one that's actually the perpetrator or the bully is losing, because no one's listening to each other now. Remember, this is a mock battle of communication or thought. Number 5 is always about truth, but it's analytical and it's disruptive. And it's all about communication. This is a message to pick your battles and consider the consequences of actions and words. So mutual respect is needed, and you do not need to know everything. Your opinion is not the only one, and nor should others presume it's theirs either. All right? Arguments can get out of control, and words are best left unspoken, because situations can become heated and fail as people reveal their true colours, resentments, disagreements, and words are best left unspoken. And try and see the bigger picture and move stubborn pride out of the way, even if you feel justified that you need to air your opinion or your views. This is there's nobody going to win this, but this is life. We have conflict, we have disagreement, but although this looks horrible, it's trying to say that words and communication, 5 of Swords, 5 in all the suits of tarot is never easy. It's about disrupting things. Numerology, you're at that middle stage between 1 and 9. And I know we've got 10 in tarot, but in numerology, we always bring it down to a single number. So the 5 of Swords just indicates that people are upset because of words, beliefs, actions, left with feelings of hurt by intimidation and humiliation. And people can turn against each other, but this is the mental process. So we've got the other 4 suits in total, haven't we? So we've got the cups, and we've got the wands, and we've got the pentacles. And when we get to 5, we've also got this kind of mock battle, but this is because we're with the swords. It's all to do with communication and all to do with how we're processing. People can be turned against each other due to opinions and presumptions that one person has got the right to steamroll over others. And here is where enemies can be created due to the lack of unity that can go on between us in a situation, an individual or even a group. We go to war for power and it tries to erupt, bringing arguments, resentment and disagreements. So this is a card that's showing that all sides can disagree and no one's prepared to put their view aside and listen to the other person. And one person on one side can dominate and not relinquish the control of power. They'll succeed with a lack of honour and principle at the expense of other people. So the 5 of Swords is informing us that stubborn pride won't achieve anything, and defeat and failure only is the outcome of this card. But it's a part of life, and you know it's coming up, and it can have an effect upon how you're thinking and how you're perceiving things. So the phrase that we get, cutting off your nose to spite your face, can be used for this card, because it's about hurting and being in a certain situation where we're harming ourselves in the process because we're trying to soothe our fears. And sometimes we're provoked. You can't just stand there all the time and be the one. I've got a question for you. 5 swords. How many people? 3. Where's the other 2? We don't know. So circumstances here can go round in circles, can't it? And we won't achieve anything by limiting ourselves. But what I want you to understand is, when I'm doing this card, please do not think that we're saying this is applying to you. We're learning about this card. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit more than I normally would, because this is a tricky card. And if you get it wrong, you're not going to feel great, and the person receiving a reading from you is probably not going to feel great, because we don't want to get it wrong. And people say, oh, I'm going to take them out. No, you've just got to know everything about it, and then you'll pluck it out and find out where it comes up. And do you think I deliver this? This card's coming out for me 4 or 5 times a day with clients as I'm reading for them. But it's usually to do with the fact that they've listened to gossip or something like that. And it's not actually them, it's the background effects. Gossips at work, gossip in HR, gossip in the community, gossip in the religious beliefs. When they go to the temple or church or whatever it is where they worship, communities can turn around and go, I think I'm going to take offence at that. Yeah, it's usually, and you're just going to go down right through it. But it's also, you've got to turn around and make sure that you are not a doormat either. And this can happen in life. And we cannot accept others sometimes when they are looking at coming at us for our beliefs, maybe our skin colour, maybe our sexuality or gender, or anything that's different from what they are. And that happens in work and school and family and relationships and bullies, neighbours, you name it. But if you're the one holding the swords, it might be because you've been forced to, because you just can't keep. You might just snatch the swords away from the bullies. We don't know what happened before this. Don't presume it's him, and he may be going, I know it looks like that, but we're setting it up to make you think with this card. You might be the one that's walking away from the fight and understand you can't win. And arrogance isn't going to solve anything. But the 5 of Swords can say, oh, you've got to watch your back and be on your guard against the actions of others. And you can be made a scapegoat. We all can. Trouble will always be laid at the door. Why do the 5s happen? Does anybody know? Usually it's because when we start off and it's just one thing, like a noose, it's a new beginning. So there's no history, totally naive, nothing's gone wrong yet. It's a clean piece of paper. And then we get to number 2, we start pairing, and we start actually using duality. One person plus the other person, fine, starts to work. Then we get creative in number 3. So 3 is creative, we're starting to create, we're all starting to blend together. And then we start to consolidate, 4. Now imagine you've got a tent, you've got 4 pegs. It's going to hold it up. Then 5 suddenly starts getting a little bit like, we're now deciding to challenge, disrupt, displace, dismantle. Absolutely what it's all about. 5 of Swords can be about the force within a relationship where it can be selfishness or dominance or control, but it's never as obvious as, oh, why was somebody so controlling? Look, it happens, doesn't it? And it's usually someone that we're fond of to begin with. So it can actually be that the aggression is just about wanting to take control out of anger or frustration or an unfair decision or an accusation that's made. And this can be embarrassing, humiliating, and be done out of spite by others who want to dominate the situation. It can be dishonourable, unfair, and lead to feelings of shame. When this card turns up, you've probably had something of a falling out or a disagreement or conflict, or you've been around it. Now, again, just bear with me, because this card coming up, if I was reading for you, let's say, please do not assume the way that I read that I'd be saying this about you if you were the querent. All right? I'm going to talk about that in a little while. Don't assume that we're talking you. Somewhere in the spread, it could be work, influences at home, the partner, the family, a neighborhood, the religious beliefs, the spiritual beliefs, the background effects from the past, best friend, friendships, even maybe within our political side of things, our social standing, could be with HR, could be with your boss. The spread I use will tell me who that is. And you can learn that too. It's all on tarot at AnneMarie.com and the courses. And where you will meet that is in the intermediate course and the advanced. But no point doing that if you can't do your ABC first. And so I get a chance to tell people the 30 years of, this has been my career, to share it with you and just say, why did I make the courses? Why did I do this? Simply because there was a need for it. One-to-ones don't work. Online works perfectly, and so does video. Absolutely right. Passionate Saggy is saying conflicts with others. Absolutely. It can be with your brother, it can be with your mother, it can be with, even sometimes we can be in a position to actually be in a mock battle. And I would always call it that. But this is a mock battle of the communication or the thought process. So we can end up going, I'm really hurt and I'm really resentful, I'm really upset by all these heated words. And oh, bless you. Yeah, I am very deep. I go very nuanced. I'm not expecting you to, but you can take what you want, can't you? And you can come back to it. I collate information because I've got Scorpio rising, and therefore dig. I want to know more, deeper. Well, I've got all this. Needed to know what to do with that. Quite honestly, I ran 7 different projects with the tarot. We've done a deck of cards, we've had a platform. Gosh, that's been running since 2007. I'm no longer with that platform and left them to it. But yeah, I taught a lot of the readers that work for me. I taught a lot of readers that's gone on to actually run their own business. That's in all the social medias, all the some working hometowns and my body, spirit, soul exhibitions. So yeah. This is a card where it can be bad blood and general ickiness. And Hope Suzanne, just so you know, this is a series of 78 cards. I do this one card every Thursday. And Tuesdays, I will be doing this card with a major arcana. So tonight I'm giving you everything I know about this card that I think would be interesting. I know a load more, but I pulled the best of it out that I think is worth it and what I feel have seen in readings over the years. And don't forget, I work every day, so that's a lot of readings, folks. And yeah, it's a lot of cards. So yeah, this comes out, but it doesn't mean there's always the perpetrator or the criminal or whatever. It's normally we're fallout. My sister-in-law, why? Why are they ganging up on me? Why are they doing this? And you know what? Don't think it doesn't happen to you, because it does. I can tell you, even at shows in the past, I'd get people coming up to me going, who are you then? Hello? Yeah. Do you know who I am? And it was like, they were marking their territory. Oh, dear. Take what you want from it and leave what you don't need. This is a battle, isn't it? A mock battle. And you need to decide whether the point of view is so important when we're in this mock battle, this mind game that we do to ourselves. They've upset me. And we've got to work out whether we put that feeling into compromise and whether we want to see eye to eye, or whether or not. Sometimes the advice of this card is to pick your battles, and you might be tempted to fight every conflict to ensure that you get your way, to prove that you're right, or defend yourself, to feel challenged or threatened even by words and communication from others. But most experts agree that choosing your battles wisely is a much better way of life than engaging in every disagreement. Not only will it lead to more of a peaceful existence, but your interpersonal relationships will definitely get stronger. So the Five of Swords can indicate that you're competing with others on the way to the path of success. Depends how it's going, doesn't it? And this can be a threat to your own happiness because you are going, oh, I've got to win at any cost. But the Five of Swords can take its toll on a person, and we need to know when we're ready to go, actually, I'm wrong there, and make amends. No sense in justifying our behaviour by trampling over people, especially in careers. Five of Swords can point to a failure in us. It shows that despite our very best efforts, we're likely to be beaten or come out as the loser. Maybe we're the victim, maybe we're the perpetrator. Hold on. Tell you what, let me show you this and I'll come back, all right? Alrighty, gave me a chance to have a good old sip of water there. I've never had such a really nice, such a compliment to actually say that you've not heard that. It means the world to me, because that's why I want to be doing this, because I feel that we are just getting, oh, I'll give you a tip, I'll give you a nugget, I can do that. So, when we get the Five of Swords, and whether it's career, work or finances, the five is always telling us we're moving into competitive, dog-eat-dog sort of type environments. And people, including us, may engage in power plays and politics and win or lose. There can be tension and conflict, and feelings and thoughts are running high, and we're looking after our own interests and our own needs because we're scared we're not going to succeed. And maybe if we're looking for work, this is the card saying, you know what, it's a competitive market. You're gonna find it tough. Forewarned, forearmed. If I got that, I'd go, gosh, if I'm looking for work and this is what I'm up against, I've got to cast my net wider. I've got to turn around and go, this might not happen the first time round. I've done that so many times where I've actually been in a position of going, I want to go here, it's not happening, so I've got to do that and that instead. Do you need to, don't you, to make it happen? And gosh, I had a mighty old time doing something that was really new to me, and I loved it. I like wearing different hats. In a financial reading, this can suggest conflict over our economic, financial affairs, and it might be like we might be battling with an ex over possessions or finances, even ex-flatmates. It doesn't always have to be that we are dealing with the ex relationship, i.e. in a romantic sense. It's just not being able to agree on an outcome. There are certain personality types in the Five of Swords, and they can be highly ambitious, competitive, and focused on winning at all costs. And you'd spot them, and they would place their needs before anyone else, and they'll fight for what they want. The Five is someone that's playing a political game masterfully, but will lose out on having no friends and having no colleagues along the way. Say you've walked away and felt maybe humiliated. Well, don't be with somebody that's not right for you because you feel you've got to be with somebody And then you start going, oh, it's me. Maybe I'm too selfish. You need to be able to walk away from anything like that and correct your course, because you just need a different perspective and you're just not vibrating on that frequency. There's no need to. It's one of those things where I would actually say that there's all sorts of things that show that we're a struggle or a battle, but it's the mental suit of swords and the communication that's really what we need to actually focus on. And just be the beautiful, soulful person that you are, and ask yourself, if you're caught up in conflict like this, don't say, oh, I don't know how I got into this. Unless you go and live like a hermit in the wilderness, you will find conflict, disruption, dismantling. It's all part of life. But it can also appear that sometimes life is a stage. And we are not always sure, because some keywords, again, I gave you some there earlier, are changes, no win, lose all, defeated, surrender, battling, weariness, loss, sacrifice, self-sacrifice, breakdown in communication. Something here is non-negotiable. Sometimes you can't be all things to everybody. Bullies, intimidations, forceful, aggressive, all those kind of things. Some key words: battles, mock battles, hostilities, abuse, stress, viciousness, arguments, smugness, gloating. People that really are antisocial, lack of conscience, bad moral compass, no integrity, or bullies, intimidations, forceful, aggressive, all those kind of things. We need to know that we're dealing with a complex card here, and one that has so many different interpretations, like I've been saying to you. And so there's so many different theories supporting this as well. So really, we just look at the theories when we're looking at this tricky card. The final interpretation of this card is going to depend entirely on whether you think it's the querent that's playing the role, or they've got a part to play in it. So that's your customer. It seldom is. And the reason I say that to you is not because you're on their side, but it's a bit like this. They will seldomly come for spiritual guidance and risk exposure. They are not the kind of people. Tread carefully, because readings can be going from one extreme to the other. And it would be really wise to pull extra cards. So if you don't use my method, but don't just leave it at this card. You need to know what's happened, where is this going. If you're pulling a past, present, future, and this is the first card out, and you normally do a spread of past, present, future. I don't do that at all. If that's what you do, fine, good for you. Then, yeah, you need to know what your next card is and what's going on. Remember that it links very much to, we've had heartbreak from the Three of Swords. We did that one a couple of weeks ago. And then we've had our figure in the Four of Swords laying there in what looked like a tomb or a sanitarium, recouping. There's a story in the cards of, we've gone through heartache, then we've gone through the fact I need solitude, I need to completely gather myself, I need nothing there, and then we've got to get ready for battle. So sometimes through that introspection, even with the possibility of professional help or a place of sanctuary, like in the Four of Swords that we talked about the possibilities of, we're strong enough to face our opponents one more time. And so maybe he's got a battle ahead of him now, and maybe he's just sorted out the bullies. We don't know, do we? We have no idea who is who. It can look very staged, as if the one at the front is the bully. But what I'm saying to you is notice the stage card. Those two lines just underneath the ocean there. Actors are playing their roles, very important roles. And there could be a hidden plot that we don't know. And things may not appear, they may not be as they appear to be. So in the foreground, there's a man who's standing there holding three swords, isn't there? And we know that he's got two over his shoulder and one on the floor. And that green garment is saying, well, I'm going to conquer and gain territory. And he's looking backwards and he's smirking. But that could be that we don't know what the other two have done. And the one that's nearest the sea, furthest away, looks so distressed and upset they could be possibly crying. And that strong wind is blowing those jagged clouds across that grey sky, saying it's very stressful and hostile and stormy in this atmosphere. That body of water represents the emotions. The mountains are symbolising the challenges and the conflict. And that mountain range is showing that, first of all, they've got to get across that great divide of the ocean, which is representing the emotions, to govern this situation before they can even start the challenge of going up that mountain. So the other two have either walked away in disgust or in defeat. We don't know. Have they surrendered? And it suggests that in some way they were involved, was why they're carrying swords. And they'd never hand them over, would they? Unless they were playing a part in it. Remember, it represents communication and maybe how the mind is working and communicating. So the very fact that he's holding that sword tells us that he probably took it from them. By the look on his face, probably by force or foul means, and the owners of these swords might be injured. They may have suffered at the hands of the main figure. But what if it's the opposite? What if it's the figure at the front is the one that's actually going to sort it out, those two, and wherever the other two are, because, you know what, there's 5 swords, only 3 people. So never assume what we see. And that was the biggest point I wanted to actually say. Do not go, you're a bully, you're this. Don't read it as in, or, you're with somebody that plays mind games with you. Get rid of them. What we've got to look at is, has this person found themselves in a situation? Sometimes people want an argy-bargy in communication. They can be very angry. And sometimes you might find yourself the victim of that. I'm sure if you are somebody that likes spirituality, psychic, intuitive, whatever you want to call this, tarot cards, crystal, divination of any kind, and you're called to that, and I always have been, you've probably got a radar for other people to go, they can feel it from you because you have empathy and sensitivity and psychic, but you can't walk around allowing yourself to be hurt by other people. You have to protect yourself too. You don't need to get your swords out, but you do need to just go, I'm not going there. I'm just not going to be drawn into this. I can't. But it can definitely do this to you in your own mind about the situation. Why is this happening to me? So do you see my point? It's a very complicated card. Are you being disturbed by people doing this and you're trying your best to not get drawn into this situation? It's very seldom in 30 years that I have read nearly every day of my life in some way, shape or form. It's very rare that I don't have a call or 2 or 3 or 4 or teach in a day. And all I mean is that's a lot of people, that's a lot of experience. I've never come across someone that came to me for a reading and actually said to them, you're a bully. I've never seen it as them. So please be very careful. Nothing physical in this card. This is not about punch-ups. There is a card that's about that, but we'll meet that much further down the line. The secret is in the suit. This is mental. This is where we go, oh, this is doing overtime. And we can definitely think that our mind can be responsible for far more chaos than if somebody came along and come and push, get out of my way. Who knows? Who knows? But this can do just as much harm. So yeah, it can be psychological mind games. It can be very difficult. Very complex card. Do not assume you have to read it with what we're saying. This is what could have happened to them. This is all the possibilities of that. But it's usually in the background effects of the person that you are reading for, because it's very seldom that a perpetrator is a bully or somebody that's horrible will come spiritual advice, knowing damn well that you could say to them, oi, yeah. So just be careful. That's my point. Any questions, anybody? A long one tonight. I told you this one would be, whew. And yeah, you know, after the swords, go and decompress. I've already walked my dog, so I was all ready for this. I washed my face with cold water before I came on, and then put my gilded the lily, as it were, so you didn't see my tiredness after preparing this and getting everything I wanted to say in some sort of order that I wanted to make sure I didn't forget anything. I did do a bit more, but I think that's enough. But the energy of the swords can be incredibly hard for us. We can be affected. Get yourself a crystal, go out for a walk, like behind me, and just go and decompress. Until next time, which will be Tuesday, when we'll be looking at this card again. But it'll be the Five of Swords, and we'll be doing tarot twists by fusing it together with the Major Arcana card to show you what it really means. So all about this card tonight. Let's show you how to use it on Tuesday, 5 o'clock, with me, Tarot with AnneMarie. Please subscribe so that you are notified when we come on, just in case you forget. Then you can find anything we've done in the past. Till next time, everyone, take care of yourselves and have a beautiful weekend. You are welcome, Passionate Sagittarius. It's a hard card, an awful lot to it, and easy to assume. But I think it's one of those that we can have lots of chats about in the future. I think people really came to this one tonight, and I'm so grateful out of all the cards, because it can be something where people go, I think I might just not read it or not use it. And lots of different examples, but swords are heavy. I get that. My pleasure. Anyway, have a great all weekend, everybody, and enjoy something nice to decompress after the heaviness of the Five of Swords. But don't be nervous about it. It's a fact of life, and the more we know about it, the better it is for all of us, isn't it? See you soon.